Welcome back to the 2014 Spring Promotion Tournament. Before we get to Game 2 between the Walking Zed and Team Coast, I'd like to welcome Team Curse's mid laner, Voyboy, to the Analyst desk. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to talk a lot about your team later on, but first I want to get all you guys' takes really on Game 1, because as Nintendo X mentioned there, we are very confident going into this matchup, and they didn't have any trouble setting aside the Walking Zed in Game 1.
Yeah, so I do want to correct one thing that I was wrong about. Bishu held up really, really well against Shifter. I've got to commend him for a good performance there. I thought Shifter was going to dominate that lane. But the other thing that Bishu said was that his team has a hard time in the mid game. They have a hard time making rotations properly, and he was really afraid his team was going to get caught off in that sort of section of the game, and that's exactly what happened. A whole lot of free kills came Coast way from random river rotations and pickoffs.
And I think the biggest thing was obviously just the duo lane, which was top this time, so I'm just going to call it the duo lane. WizVision outplayed Nidus really bad. You'd think that Bobby Hank Hill was at fault because he's the AD carry and he's the one who's lower on CS, but honestly, Nidus got chunked really bad at level 1, and then he based and he made Bobby Hank Hill miss 2 waves. Then he came back, he got chunked again. He just has like 0 presence in lane. He just wasn't playing very well, and the ganks that he forced, Cortez missed every cocoon I saw him. He missed one on Zion bottom lane. He went top, he missed that one. I mean, it's not that hard to hit a cocoon. You just kind of wait for them to flash because they're going to flash. And if he had hit those cocoons, those were 2 free kills, and that would have snowballed the game in TWZ's favor, but it ended up being a complete waste of time, and even in one instance, it got a triple kill for WizVision, which lost him the game. That was the reason that every tower started dropping.
Very ruthless analysis from DoubleLift. Voyboy, do you feel the same way? Is there any part or any moment in the game that they could have taken it back if they wanted to?
I think actually DoubleLift said the cocoons weren't too hot. I actually thought that Cortez went for a good play mid when Bishu went for the ultimate on Shifter, and like the worst possible luck ever, he ultied like Shifter in 1 creep. The creep lived with like 10 health, and it actually blocked the cocoon, which probably would have resulted in a kill on Shifter, which I think if the Walking Zed was going to make a play to get the game back in their favor, that kill was probably what they needed, and unfortunately it hit the creep. Shifter just flashed away, and he was perfectly fine, and once you're down 3 kills, your AD carry is like really fed, and you're an amateur team coming in, like the nerves are going to get to you. You start to play a little bit more passively, and you could just see like they weren't able to take any initiative after that point.
What's cool is that I can ask you now about both the top matchups and the mid matchups, because you had the knowledge on both. Let me maybe start by the top matchup. The Shyvana versus Nasa ended up in the bottom lane, and Yuzuki actually quite held his own.
Yeah, definitely. So Zion, he did miss a bit of EXP due to the level 1 shenanigans, so when he came into the lane, he was a bit behind on CS and EXP to Yuzuki, but when he comes into lane with the red buff, and Shyvana already has early pressure on Nasus, in my opinion. He should be able to take advantage of that lane a little bit. I think he was having a few like graphical problems or something, so that might have contributed to him not really being able to take off an aggressive start that I would have probably expected him to. But what basically ended up happening is they both just free farmed. Yuzuki out-farmed him by 20, 30 CS, and at that point, like, the top laners didn't really impact the game too much. Once your AD carry gets 4 kills, your mid laner gets Shifter 1v1 Bishu, got that kill. The top laners are just sitting there like, hey guys, like, good luck. And that's how the game pretty much played out. But yeah, I think that Shyvana versus Nasus ended up pretty even.
Yeah, I actually got to kind of piggyback off what you said there. The game really did turn into the WizFusion show where, okay, yeah, you get a triple kill in lane. We'll tend to snowball you. And we saw what sort of happened with that. The top lane turret goes down. Bobby Hank Hill leaves to freeze that lane and catch back up, which is probably the right play. Let's be fair. You don't want to be a 0 gold AD carry, but that gives Coast the chance to take Dragon. It gives Coast the chance to group up and take other objectives. And again, all those mid-game kills they kept picking up, like, it all snowballed off of that kill, and you know, the top laners kind of were left alone, and it was, okay, let's go make plays with our AD carry.
Yeah, the snowball just got going, and I'm coming back to that bottom lane, or that top lane as it was in this game again, and with Fujin's play. Is that anything that you think the Walking Zed can mediate as we go forward in this series, or is he just going to be too strong?
Oh, no, definitely this is something that you can very easily fix. Nidus shouldn't play Thresh. It's a very mechanically intensive champion, and you cannot be, like, off your game when you're playing Thresh. If you're like a pixel off with your hook, I mean, that's a missed hook. And you should be playing like more comfortable champions. I don't see him play Thresh, and he didn't play well that game. Like, he just kept hooking in and dying. You saw it. And if he's on tilt, he might pick it again, but I don't think he will. I think he's going to make the smart decision. He's not going to play Thresh, and they're probably going to, on this time, because they're blue side, go bottom lane. It'll be fine. They have the, like, I don't know. It should be an okay matchup if they don't give them any Jinx again, which I don't expect them to do.
Voyboy or Freak maybe have an opinion on what's certainly going to have to happen for the Walking Zed in picks and bans.
Yeah, I think they need to calm, well, not even just picks and bans, but they need to calm the heck down. We talked about this with Determined versus Evil Geniuses, but also in just walking backstage real quick, Wizfujin and Daydream were sitting there, and I just hear, yeah, Knight is really nervous right now from one of the two of them as they're sitting there kind of talking about the matchup, and it's like, yeah, these guys can already tell their opponents are in their own heads. Like, you got to imagine it's got to be tough for the Walking Zed as well. And these guys need to say, look, it's a best of 5. There's at least 2 games ahead of us. Inhale, exhale. Let's play the next game because they're clearly incredibly skilled players.
We're going to have to see how that goes on as the series goes on. And talking about being nervous, Voyboy, you're here, and tomorrow, a very big moment for Team Curse, of course. How are you going up in the series versus Cognitive Gaming?
Yeah, so Cognitive is definitely a team that we respect. Their team is pretty good. We did choose them because we thought they were the weakest of the 3 amateur teams, but we did take into consideration that Zamfir is a really skilled mid laner. I think that he might be potentially one of the best in the amateur scene, but I think going into our match, I'm looking forward to making sure that he's going to remain one of the best in the amateur scene.
Ooh.
Dang.
Strong words. How do you guys feel about the choice that Curse made for going up against Cognitive?
I think it makes a lot of sense. If I were in Curse's shoes, I probably would have made the same choice. Cog seemed to be, they hit kind of a hot streak to get in. I think they won some matches. People weren't expecting them to. They have a pretty poor record in the NACL. I'm actually excited to see how you guys play that matchup, though, because you and Quas both have interesting champion pools, as does Zamfira. So I'm just kind of looking forward to what kind of shenanigans happen in those matchups.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty exciting, but I can't reveal anything until...
Of course not.
You'll see.
No, you not want to reveal anything, so maybe let me circle around and ask you about how the transition has been for you, of course, from that top lane to that mid lane. Yesterday, Kurt proved that it can be a very successful story.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely impressed with Kurt's play. He's really just like in a similar situation as me. After the season, they're looking to pick up a new player, and he felt like he could fit in the mid lane role. I felt like I could do the same thing. We both just put our skills to the test. He proved himself. I'm looking to prove myself in our best of 5 against Cognitive, and I think I'm going to do well. I'm looking forward to. I'm working hard to become like one of the best mid laners in NA, and I definitely think I can do it. So we'll just have to see how I do.
Maybe we can keep talking a little bit about the huge changes that are in this Curse roster. Maybe to DoubleLift, saying that they gotten back with Cop. Cop is back in the bottom lane now, playing with Zeke. And how do you think that's going to match up?
I mean, just playing against them, they're okay. Like I don't know. Like Cop's always played really passively against me. Like when I watch him play against other ADs, he plays pretty well. But when he plays against me, I don't know what happens. Like he just kind of falls apart. I think it's more of a mental block kind of thing. But I know he's really good. I've always rated him like, he's probably like top 4. He's always been top 4 in NA. Even though he's passive, he's always been good.
Well, yeah, Devil, if you're just so intimidating, who would play aggressively against you?
I know, dude.
Yeah, Cop's been playing really well. Whenever we play you guys, he's like, yeah, Devil is just my kryptonite. But I think it might have some mental thing. But yeah, Cop's been playing really well in our games.
Talk me a little bit more through all those changes in your team, and what's the biggest difference for you going from top to mid, and what you have to pay attention to in lane?
Yeah, so right now we have, well, I'll just talk through some of the changes. So Cop and Zeke, they've been performing really well together. I think the synergy is definitely building. None of us have been playing together for a very long time. We formed the team like a month and a half ago, but I think that our synergy is like really strong. I'm extremely happy with the way things are playing out. And as like mid laner, I just look to control the map with Dominate. We just look to make plays. We let bot lane do their thing, and we give Quas like a favorable matchup that he thinks he can go or do really well in. And we just try and play the map like that. And yeah, I definitely think that you can see me in Dominate looking to control the map and just make plays.
Can you go maybe a little deeper into that? How it's different for you playing with Dominate than it was with Saint?
Yeah, so I have played with Dominate before. We used to play on Dignitas, and we had really good synergy during our time there. And I can definitely feel a lot of the same like interactions when we play. Obviously, we're still learning like the little nuances of each other's play. Only been practicing for like a month or so, but I think that we're going to be like a force to be reckoned with going into the next season.
I actually have a question for you about Dominate, if you can answer this. So he's obviously been away from the pro scene for a year, coming back now, playing with you again. What have you noticed actually in Dominate from, 2012, 2011 to now?
He's really just kind of the same person, still like really lighthearted, joking. He's still a beast at the game, and I think that he's still like one of the best junglers in NA, so we just got to prove ourselves in our match and going forward.
All right.
DoubleLift, how do you kind of you're in the position that a lot of things change around you in a team, and you kind of got to stay put and kind of adjust to all these different players that are coming in. How good do you think a team can do after a month and a half with a new roster change?
Oh, I think Curse is, yeah, it should be a pretty easy sweep, honestly. Like, they're good. They're really good. The way I see it is most teams, pretty much all the best teams, they control one side of the map, and they focus like a lot of their ganks, a lot of their grouping, and like objective play calling on that side of the map. And for Curse, it's generally the top side. So like Quas, Voyboy, and Dominate, I see them as like the carries of Curse, and they're pretty much always doing well. Like, I don't really see them like have super bad games or start feeding or whatever. They do well, and they make like the big plays when it counts, and they take objectives together. They're just really good.
Do you feel, Voyboy, that you will be able to carry more in that mid lane, seeing how we know how top lane, how it is right now, and it's just basically the bruisers and just very tanky scaling into late game. But do you think that in the mid lane you'll be able to actually make the plays and just carry it all right now?
Yep, that's what I've been doing in our games in the Challenger Series, and looking forward to do it in our matches versus Cognitive.
Okay, well, it's going to be an exciting matchup. I also like to ask you guys, we talked about this a little bit, but we've got a new guest on the desk now about tomorrow's matchup, Cloud9 versus Fnatic. NA still has a chance. How do you think that will go?
I mean, we saw them play at Worlds. The games were pretty close. It could have gone either way. Maybe should have been Cassidy or something like that, but I think that Cloud9 is looking pretty strong. I haven't seen Fnatic play too much. They didn't look that great versus CLG at IEM, but honestly, I think it's anyone's game.
Like, I've been saying this forever, Balls does not really play that badly, especially in that series against Fnatic. Like, yeah, he didn't play his best game, but, man, like, you get dwarfed when you play against Soaz. That guy is so good, and he just puts the team on his back and he just carries. And, like, it's going to make the other top laner look really bad because he's not doing the same thing, but this guy's super good, and I just expect him. He's better at, recently, like, at IM Cologne than I saw him at Worlds. So I fully expect him to just, like, carry.
The matchup I actually really like between these two teams is actually the jungle one, just because, at least from my perspective, the 2014 season has made a whole lot of different things happen to the jungle. Even just in the games we saw today, Diamond got Lizard Elder on Nocturne, and Lizard Elder was used on one champion, and that was Evelynn. And that was the only time you pretty much didn't go Ancient Golem on anybody. So we're already seeing at least a little bit of variance here. But I want to talk about it because back in the World Championship, Meteos was farm heavy, and even in a game where Cyanide got first blood, Meteos beat him to level 6, out-farmed him, out-leveled him, had more pressure on the map overall. And I want to see how the junglers adapt to the new changes, and if Cyanide can keep from getting so far behind Meteos.
So, like, when I think of European junglers, I think of heavy counter jungling. That's what Cyanide's, like, really good at. And that's what a lot of the European junglers have started to pick up and just been getting really good at, especially with these new changes to the jungle. And Meteos, he's a farm-heavy jungler, and he'll go into a lane and push it up. And when Fnatic sees Meteos go into a lane, Cyanide's going to go into his jungle and take every camp. And that's exactly kind of what happened to us at Cologne. And it's something that's really smart that people didn't do kind of earlier in the season. But now people are doing it, and I think that's going to punish Meteos for the way he plays.
That's true, actually. I remember watching some games in Korea especially. I know Danny did this once where, you know how junglers show up and they 3v1 turrets or they'll 2v2 to defend a turret? Mm-hmm. He would be like, I see your jungler. I'm going to go take your wolves and wraiths and crap. Screw the laner who's stuck there 1v2ing under a turret. And, like, Danny would literally just, like, leave a guy that die in the 1v2 and take a bunch of camps. And in one of these cases, it was like a top lane Nasus. He held on with Spirit Fire, and Dandy got to steal a bunch of camps around. And I agree with you. The counter jungling as a reaction to these moves can be really powerful.
I'm sorry, I just had something in my throat right there. I'm sorry. DoubleLift, I want to revisit it because, of course, we're going to see the Reckless Yellow Star lane matchup playing again tomorrow. How do you think that's going to go? And do you feel like they will overpower C9's bottom lane?
Man, like, I don't know. I don't want to like go over whatever our games, but I thought they were really good outside of lane, but in lane they were like just they're just good. They're just okay. But when I play against Sneaky and Lemon in scrims, these guys are super aggro. Like, I go 50-50 with them, and that's, like, not a good record for me. And they play so aggressive. Like, you don't understand. They just go crazy. And I don't see that in lanes. It's really strange. When I watch them play in lanes, it's like their bottom lane is almost non-existent. It's like when they played against Gambit, these guys just didn't do anything. They played super passive, and they didn't make any plays. But I don't know. In scrims, these guys go ham. And I want to see kind of the shift, like, translate from scrims to actual, like, results in tournaments, because if they play the way they play in scrims, I think it should be really easy for Sneaky and Lemon.
Do you think some of that's how intimidating having to fight Genja Edward is, or is that just them being nervous when they get to an actual match?
It might just be nerves from when you get into an actual match, or maybe it's just like they don't want to play as risky as they do because it's a real match and they don't really think they need to because Meteos might carry them or whatever. But I don't know. At the same time, Reckless is also really good. I've always said he's probably the best AD carry in EU, so it should be interesting. I just want to watch it. I really don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And Voyboy, it must be a little double feeling for you sitting here and listening to that and watching the Battle of the Atlantic because you guys were at the highest level and now you're fighting to stay in the LCS. How is the general feeling with you with this kind of roller coaster that you're going into tomorrow?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. The Battle of Atlantic games have been great to watch. We can see like what the other top LCS teams are running for strategies and stuff, and we like, oh, we like do that too, or oh, that's kind of interesting. Didn't think of it, but yeah, our whole like minds and hearts are just set on winning our match. Like that's the most important thing to us. We've been working so hard for the past like 2 months, month and a half to just work for this day, and it's pretty exciting that it's finally here. I'm a little bit nervous, but I have a lot of confidence in myself and my team. I think we're going to do really well and looking to help impress people.
And I can imagine for you, who has been at the top of the scene and playing as a top laner, very good performances for the longest time, and now you're there. Do you miss going up against the best in the world? And how do you think you would match up if, for instance, you had to play them tomorrow?
Yeah, I definitely miss competing at the top level. I think with our new team, we definitely have the potential to make it up there. We're going to be working as hard as possible, granted that we make it into the LCS. And yeah, I would love to play versus like the best players in the world again. Like, if we somehow make it to Worlds this season and go against like Faker and all the best mid laners, that would just be like a dream come true. So yeah, I want to make it there again.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much. I do have an update on Game 2 between the Walking Dead and Team Coast. As you already know, we have been experiencing technical difficulties throughout the day, and those issues have forced us to delay the remainder of today's Spring Promotion Tournament for approximately 1 hour. We